Good evening, students. Today we are going to discuss about Unit 11, Fish Feeds and Feeding Strategies, that is from MSc second year. So let us start the topic. In this chapter, we are going to deal with concept in feed formulation, need for supplemental food, types of feeds and feeding strategies and feed technology, nutritionally induced diseases, nutritional toxicity disorders, mycotoxins toxicity disorders, vitamins toxicity disorders, diseases associated with live food, food organisms, etc. Now, what is the need to learn about fish feeding? Feed management plays a crucial role in the success of aquaculture operations. It directly affects the health and growth of aquatic species. Efficient feed management promotes sustainable practices in fish farming. It helps minimize waste and optimize resource use. In addition, proper feed management maximizes the profitability of aquaculture businesses. In intensive fish culture practices, the main objective is to maintain optimum density of fish per unit area of water by adopting techniques relating to polyculture, multiple stocking, stock manipulation, etc. Now, what is the role of feeding frequency? Feeding frequency is a key determinant of fish growth and feed utilization. While it is generally understood that increasing feeding frequency can benefit growth, the optimal frequency may vary depending on various factors. Understanding the relationship between feeding frequency and fish performance is crucial for developing effective feeding strategies. Implications for aquaculture practices. By understanding the optimal feeding frequency for different fish species and considering factors such as environmental conditions and fish characteristics, farmers can improve feed efficiency. They should reduce feed waste and improve feed conversion ratios and enhance growth rates by maximizing fish growth and production and optimize feeding strategies. They can develop customized feeding plans that cater to the specific needs of their aquaculture operations. They can reduce environmental impact. Minimize aquaculture's environmental footprint by reducing the feed inputs and associated waste. Next, let us see what is mixed feeding schedule. Switching between high and low protein diets has been used to improve growth and feed utilization in various fish species. Asian sea bass are barramundi. So this is one of the most economically important fish species and it distributes throughout the Indo-West Pacific Oceans. Eastern edge of the Persian Gulf to China, Taiwan and southern Japan, southward to southern Papua and New Guinea and northern Australia. The global aquaculture production of this species has increased during the past 4 decades. Apart from good taste of the fillet, this species can also tolerate crowding and a wide range of physiological conditions. And the female fish have high fecundity, simple hatchery production of seed, good ability to accept a pelleted diet, and rapid growth. These desirable characteristics make the Asian sea bass an ideal candidate for aquaculture. Since Asian sea bass fish are carnivorous, a high protein content in the pelleted diet increases their production costs. Therefore, it is essential to reduce the cost of the feed that contains high protein levels. The MFS directly influences feed consumption and utilization of reared animals. Therefore, assessing available nutrients throughout the activity of digestive enzymes is the preferred option used in aquatic species. The high protein diet with approximately 400 grams per kg protein content was used in the current study since it is practically used as diet for raiding Asian sea bass in Thailand. This protein level is similar to optimal dietary protein range for this species from 400 to 550 grams per kg, depending on diet energy density and the size of fish. Now, under such conditions of fish culture, the natural protein component of food organisms present in the environment will not meet the needs of the growing fish biomass, thus necessary for supplementation with protein-rich feeds. There are certain foods which are not consumed by the human beings, such as plant proteins, condemned grains, straw, hay, scrap of human food, bioproducts, and waste from industries, single cell proteins, etc. To achieve progressive development of the fish farming industry, such substances could be utilized for the preparation of artificial fish feeds after conducting proper experiments. The development of artificial feed mainly depends on the studies relating to basic nutrition and physiology. For economic reasons, such as investigation, should aim to find out the minimal level of protein which satisfies the amino acid requirements of the species for optimum inherent capacity for growth, adequate supplementation by carbohydrates to serve as dietary calories, and luxurious supply of vitamins and minerals for necessary stimulation of protein digestion. Now, what are the nutritional requirements? Carbs being the last growing varieties of fishes, they're mostly chosen for culture practices in India in fresh waters. The general practice is to provide some starch foods to these carbs to meet dietary calories. As a result or series of experiments conducted in the country, certain balanced artificial feeds have been formulated. To meet the dietary demand of fishes, one should know the nutritional requirements of fishes, such as proteins, carbohydrates, fats, micronutrients, vitamins, etc. Now, let us see the importance of proteins in fish feed. Fish are efficient converters of vegetable proteins into tasty proteins of high biological value and are able to utilize high levels of dietary proteins for synthesis as compared to other organisms. It has been reported that at 47 degrees Fahrenheit, Chinook salmon require 40% casein, whereas the requirement was 55% and 58 degrees Fahrenheit. It has also been observed that high protein level, that is 53%, is less effective in comparison to lower level, that is 26.67%, when fed to fry and fingerlings of carbs. Level of protein depends upon quality of protein for obtaining optimum growth. Next, amino acids. Amino acids, which are indispensable in human nutrition, have been found to be essential for certain fishes. And since their composition is known to the primary factor influencing protein digestion, need for their quantitative requirements by the cultivable fishes could be measured, the qualitative and quantitative distribution of amino acids, so that limiting ones can be supplemented by synthetic preparations of complementary proteins, resulting in a proper mixture of dietary amino acids for better utilization of dietary proteins. Composition of amino acids in fish flesh, which can offer guidelines for their levels in animal proteins. Next, fish meal. Fish meal is the ideal protein item having all the essential amino acids required in fish feeds. It has been reported that fishes feed with fish meal have yielded better results when compared to the fishes fed with soya bean. Next, silkworm pupae. In Japan, intensive farming of carps in cages and floats is achieved by feeding with silkworm pupa and the conversion rate worked out. It has been revealed that fishes fed on silkworm pupa have yielded better growth when compared to the fishes fed on a mixture of rice bran and mustard oil cake in the ratio 1:1. It has been observed that a mixture of animal proteins gave better weight gain, and feed conversion than a mixture of plant proteins or any of the proteins tested alone. It has also been reported that plant proteins mixed with 10 to 15% of animal proteins could be utilized as the basic ingredients in formulating the artificial feeds under intensive fish farming. Plant proteins, they are deficient in lysine and methionine content, and to avoid amino acid imbalance, need supplementation with animal protein. The most favored items generally used for carp feeding are different oil cakes and grain fodders. It has been reported that in the composite fish culture of Indian major carps and exotic carps, high fish production has been achieved by using a mixture of rice bran and mustard oil cake in the ratio 1:1. The nutritive value of oil cakes and grain feeder is dependent on their quality. The quality of prepared feeds will be reduced when their fat content is 10 to 20%. The overall protein content will be used when the solvent extracted oil cake and rice bran are used as feeds. Now, leaf proteins. Information regarding the use of leaf proteins in fish nutrition is as yet negligible, except for some vegetable eating species. But because of their high production and competitive economy in agricultural industries, they may in the near future occupy a prominent place in fish feeds after adequate processing involving separation of pigments, flavor, and toxins. Then, what are algal proteins? Algae constitute the feed of certain varieties of cultivable fishes. Chlorella species have been found to contain all the essential amino acids and protein of desired nutritional and functional quality. Can be obtained by selecting the suitable media for their culture and adjusting the harvesting time. It has been noticed that feed pellets made of chlorella resulted in the higher yields of Oreochromis mosambica. Now, single cell proteins. Single cell proteins derived from yeast, bacteria, fungi, or algae grown on a variety of substrata, which include hydrocarbons like crude oil, natural gas, coal, carbohydrates such as cellulose, grain, sulfite liquor, molasses, and organic waste, constitute yet another source of protein. It has been reported that satisfactory results are achieved when yeast is grown on liquid hydrocarbons as a substitute for a part of fish meal. Carbohydrates. These are the diets of starch and serve as a major source of dietary calories in artificial feeds. So most of the cultivable fishes like carps and uh, mullets are omnivorous, taking in considerable amount of vegetable matter and are therefore well adapted physiologically to digest starch. Digestibility of starch is reported to be 30 to 90%. Rice bran and wheat bran, which are the main starch diets used for cultivable fishes, are found to be highly digestible. Potatoes can be used as substitute for grain. It has been reported that the digestibility of potatoes can be used as substitute for grain. It has been reported that the digestibility of potato starch, xylan, and algin as 85, 66, and 53% respectively. The ratio of protein to carbohydrates in the feed, if 1 is to 7 or 1 is to 8, which gives a wide scope to utilize feeding of cheap carbohydrate diets as long as protein in the natural food is sufficient for growth. While formulating the balanced diets, carbohydrate and protein ratio needs a careful manipulation so as to spare the proteins for growth and carbohydrates to serve supplying the dietary calories. The diet of certain fishes is said to be nutritionally complete when it contains 39.9% of proteins and 18.2% of carbohydrates with food conversion rate of 1.4 to 2.4. Now, some fish have the carbohydrate percentage like this. Oil cake, the fish feed that we give, oil cake has 6 to 7%, soybean meal has 4 to 5%, rice polish 7 to 10%, rice bran 8 to 12%. Then de-oiled rice bran 10 to 15%, rapeseed cake 11 to 15%, seed cake 10 to 13% of carbohydrates. Next, coming to fats. The fishes cultivated in warm waters utilize fats in a better way. Stimulation has been noticed in the growth of fishes when cod liver oil is added to diet. But it is not known whether lipids or other components of oil are responsible for such type of stimulation of growth. As excess fats get deposited in liver, trout ration is usually prepared with less than 10% fat content. It has been reported that in order to yield better results of growth and to reduce mortality in rainbow trout, fatty acids with omega-3 configuration between 3 to 10% are required. The increased fish yield was found mainly due to accumulation of food fat in sorghum-fed fish as long as protein was not a limiting factor. Therefore, it is clear that provided the protein component in the diet is sufficient, fats can be advantageously used in carb feeds for gaining added yields as well as sparing proteins for growth. Now, micronutrients. The growth stimulating micronutrients cannot be substitute for food, but their presence in general required formulating a balanced diet for improving the protein assimilation. So, in spite of the presence of proteins, growth rate may be slow due to the absence of micronutrients. So, micronutrients are essential in the fish feed. Next, vitamins. Salmon and trout require all 7 vitamins for their growth. Cultivate carbs need pyridoxine, riboflavin, and pantothenic acid. The carbs indicated better results when they were fed with 0.8 milligram per kg per day of cobalt, which is a part of vitamin B12, concerned with nitrogen assimilation and synthesis of hemoglobin, and also muscular protein. And addition of 4% fodder yeast. Addition of cobalt chloride increases the survival and growth of cultivable fishes. Antibiotics. The intensive fish farming results in causing diseases to fishes. The role of antibiotics in stimulating protein metabolism depends upon the quality of diet, and best results have been obtained by feeding 20,000 units of terramycin to carbs every 3 days, resulting in the growth increased by 9.5 percentage and a further saving of 10.5 percentage. Digestibility. Natural food items of fishes are highly nutritious, reflecting a simple and regular relation between protein, fat, carbohydrates, and their utilization. But in case of artificial feedstuff, elaborate experimental analysis have to be carried out to know their digestibility and utilization coefficients. Digestion coefficients are generally measured in terms of nitrogen and calories. Food supply is the most potent factor affecting the growth of fishes, and with sufficient quantity and adequate quality of food, fish attain the maximum size. It is not easy to measure accurately the food intake of fishes. Some of the food is used to replace the tissues broken down in catabolic process, that is for basal metabolism. Basal metabolic rates can be measured by studying the environmental respiration of anesthetized fish. The activity of fish is influenced by conditions and requires energy. The energy for these activities is obtained from food. Fish can gain weight only when they eat more food than it is necessary to satisfy their basal metabolism and to provide energy for their activity. Fish require particular ration for the upkeep of the routine metabolism known as maintenance requirement. Fish gain weight from surplus food after fulfilling the main requirements. In case of food shortage, fish lose weight, and in case of starvation, the metabolic activities are lowered to some extent. The use of vitamin B12, cobalt nitrate, and extract of ruminant stomach give good results in survival of the major carp fry. It is found that 50 kg B12 and cobalt nitrate in combination with extract of goat stomach enhance the survival of carp fry up to 5%. Addition of yeast also promotes growth. Yeast along with vitamin B12 and B complex also enhance the survival rate significantly. The knowledge of conversion rate is very essential for the selection of fish feed. The conversion rate is expressed as a ratio between food consumed for increase per unit weight gained by the body, discounting the food requirement by the fish for its maintenance and energy requirement. What is supplementary feeding? So, in the raising of a stable fishery, there is a need for regular supply of sustained and balanced food for growing fish. Suitable food has to be provided for healthy growth of fish. Special food arrangement is required for raising good crop of quality, often very necessary. However, artificial feeding of fish in rearing and stocking ponds may not be economical in India at present. Some fat food may, however, be desirable few days before in harvesting and marketing of fish. To ensure sustained growth, artificial food has to be supplemented at the time of natural food scarcity in ponds. In India, the major carps, namely katla, rohu, and mrigal, dominate aquaculture production. Though Chinese carps such as the common carp, grass carp, and silver carp are also cultured, their popularity in the market remains low. In some of the emerging commercial cultural system, due to non-availability of compound feeds, the majority of farmers in most parts of the country continue to depend on the traditional mixture of rice bran and oil cake as the common supplementary feed. Even when compound feeds are used, the application of organic manures and inorganic fertilizers to produce natural food is widely used. Interestingly, with the increasing commercialization of carp farming and greater market focus, the commercial availability of using pellet feeds is now being addressed by feed companies, and with a number of innovations made by farmers in evolving suitable culture practices and feeding methods. Pellet feeds are gaining acceptance in many parts of the country. Due to the practical difficulties involved in obtaining compound feeds at an affordable cost, farmers are often left with no option but to continue using rice bran as the major feed input, along with some additional oil cakes. Now, what are the types of fish feed and what do they contain? They contain complete nutrition for fish, specially formulated feed for better growth, floating and good stability. They're easily digestible and they're absorbed by the fish immediately. And they're also hygienically manufactured. Now, examples are goldfish pellets, marine fish pellets, bright colored pellets. The kind of extra food depends on the type of fish. For example, tilapia eat almost anything, including all types of supplementary foods. The silver carp eat only phytoplankton, even at the marketable size. Supplementary feeds given to different cultivated fishes of diverse feeding habits are vegetable feeds such as leaves, grasses, tubers, and root starches. Oil cakes such as mustard, groundnut, till, coconut, etc., and other residues. Grain fodders like wheat bran, rice, lupine, soya bean, maize, rye, barley, etc. Feeds of animal origin such as fish flour, fish meal, fresh meat from warm-blooded animals, blood, poultry, eggs, shrimps, crabs, mussels, snails, etc. Additives such as vitamins and minerals also. The selection of supplementary feed depends on number of factors such as ready acceptability to fish, easy digestibility, high conversion value, easy transportability, abundant availability. Of all these, ready acceptability by the fish and its conversion ratio and the involved costs are the most important. It should be a balanced one with adequate protein, fat, carbohydrate, mineral, and vitamin contents. The rate of food conversion depends on quality of supplementary feed, stocking density of fish, size and age of the fish stock, environmental factors such as temperature, oxygen tension, water, etc. The method of feeding also. Now, what is the relation between supplementary feed and fish production in different culture systems? In the natural environment, growing fish number and natural fish food organisms are in equilibrium. It is not necessary to provide supplementary feed. When the culture system is intended to go in for more fish production, fertilizers and supplementary feed should be supplied. In the extensive culture system, the fish production can be enhanced by adding little amount of organic and inorganic fertilizers. Whereas in semi-intensive culture systems, the fish production can be enhanced by adding the fertilizers along with sufficient amount of supplementary feed. In intensive culture systems, the fish production can be enhanced more by using large amount of supplementary feeds. The fish yield can be enhanced by increasing the supplementary feed from extensive to intensive culture practices. Now, what is formulated feed? Rearing of spawn, fry, and fingerlings until they become stock size and their subsequent culture in gross outpounds in gross out ponds require appropriate and nutritionally balanced diet for enhancing production. This has been one of the essential requisites in the development of aquaculture. The advantages of formulated feeds are proper formulated feeds are a replica of exact nutritional requirement of fish. Thereby understanding the nutritionally well-balanced feeds, which could be formulated using less cost feedstuff availability locally. Ingredients of formulated feeds can complement one another and raise the food utilization rate. Proteins can supplement one another so as to satisfactorily improve most of the essential amino acid content of the feed, thereby raising protein utilization. Large quantities of feed can be prepared at a time with good shelf life so as to be convenient to preserve, which can be used at the time of supplementary feeding. Feed ingredient sources can be broadened with preferred and less preferred ingredients, along with additives like antibiotics and drugs to control fish diseases. High efficiency of feed can be achieved by judicious manipulation of feed ingredients and can be titrate commercially feasible. By adding a binding agent to produce pellet feeds, the leaching of nutrients in water is diminished and wastage is reduced. Dispersing over large farm areas is quite possible as formulated feeds are convenient to transport. These are suitable for automatic feeding, for which automatic feed dispensing devices could be successfully employed. Now, what are the types of formulated feed? Suspension, it is liquid feed prepared with ascites, squilla, and clams. Pellet feed, it is nutritionally well-balanced solid feed and can be used when required. This type of feed contains only ingredients of precisely known composition, and for this reason, such diets are very expensive. Though natural fish food is available to fish, supplementary feeds are required to get more yield. The supplementary feed is a combination of different ingredients, both from plant and animal origin, and it can be administered with different forms. The conventional method is by broadcasting the feed in dry powder form in the fish pond. Broadcasting has its own disadvantages. Much of the feed is likely to be wasted by getting dissipated in water due to the disturbance caused during the feeding of fish. Further, supplementary feed in powder form cannot be stored for a longer period. Alternatively, the feed is given in paste form. To avoid the instability of these ingredients, the feeds are now prepared into dry type of pellet feeds. Dry pellets are easy to handle and store, have longer shelf life, and are free from accumulation of lethal toxic materials like alpha toxins. Further, such pellets reduce wastage on feeding and ensure uniform composition of the various nutritional components. Owing to these advantages, the fish culturists are assured of maximum return when they use dry pellets. The ingredients used for formulating fish feed should be based on their qualities such as protein content, energy level, type of amino acids, etc. Major ingredients commonly used are cornmeal, groundnut oil cake or mustard oil cake, soya bean powder, rice bran, white bran, wheat bran, fish meal, fish offal, shrimp meal, crab meal, blood meal, slaughterhouse waste, tannery waste, silkworm pupa, cow dung, tapioca flour, wheat flour, wild leguminous seed kernels, dried algae, molasses, etc. Besides, dried yeast in the form of flour also serves as a rich food ingredient with protein and many B group vitamins. In many fish feeds, protein is the most expensive portion and is invariably the primary substance. The energy level of the diet is adjusted to a desired level by the addition of high energy supplements, which are less expensive than protein supplements. The rectangle method is an easy way to determine the proper dietary proportions of high and low protein feeds for use in the dietary requirements of fish. For example, if rice bran and groundnut oil cake are to be used as chief ingredients to prepare fish feed with 40% protein. Now, nutrients in fish per serving, a fish has protein 20 grams, fat 10 grams, sugar below 1 gram, fiber below 1 gram, carbs below 1 gram, and calories 173. Now, preparation of pelleted feed. The required quantities of the various components are dried, powdered, and mixed. The mixture is kneaded well, adding minimum quantity of water to form soft dough. The dough is then cooked for 30 minutes in steam under pressure at 1 kg per centimeter. The dough, after cooking, is allowed to cool in a spacious tray, and the prescribed quantities of fish oil or vegetable oil and vitamin and mineral mixture are thoroughly mixed in the dough. Finally, it is pressed through a pelletizer having a perforated disc with 2 mm or larger holes, depending on the size requirement for different finfish and shellfish. A semi-automatic pelletizer powered by a 0.25 HP high protein electric motor suitable for the production of pellet fish feed, having a rated output of 10 kgs per hour, has been designed. The noodles are dried in the sun and broken into pieces of about 1 centimeter. Care should be taken to see that the pellet feeds are free from moisture. However, a maximum moisture content of 15% may be allowed in the pellets. Sun-dried pellets can be stored for a period of even 1 year. Now, the dietary components of major classes of nutrients are proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, and water. Now, what are the functions of nutrients? They help in tissue building and maintenance, proteins, certain types of lipids, minerals, and water. They also supply energy. Carbohydrates, lipids, proteins may be oxidized to provide energy. Trace minerals and vitamins. These are essential components of coenzymes in biochemical system. Now, how and why protein is essential source of amino acids? Protein digestion, free amino acids are absorbed from intestine and distributed by the circulatory system to the various organs and tissues. At the tissue level, they metabolized into new proteins for growth and maintenance or used as a source of energy. Animals are able to synthesize and interconvert some amino acids, but in those fish that have been studied in detail, 10 amino acids have been identified as essential dietary ingredients to support maintenance and growth. Animals cannot synthesize to support optimal growth. Essential amino acids. Cysteine and tyrosine are semi-essential amino acids. Proteins are among the most important constituents of all living cells. The whole fish carcass contains On an average, 75% of water, 16% of protein, 6% lipid, and 3% of percentage of ash. Proteins are essential components of both the cell nucleus and cell protoplasm, and accordingly account for the bulk of the muscle tissues, internal organs, brain, nerves, and skin. Protein requirement of fish and shellfish vary. Carnivorous fish higher dietary requirement of protein compared to omnivores and herbivores. Age higher in younger animals to support more rapid growth. Example, feed formulated for larva, fry, and juvenile stages typically contain 5 to 10% more protein than grow-out diets. Then what are the diseases caused by nutritional deficiencies? Nutritional disorders are caused by an excess of nutrient or nutritional deficiency in fish that is more than the normal requirement. Lipids, carbohydrates, proteins, vitamins, and mineral salts are only a few of the essential nutrients for fish growth. Reduced fertility, sluggish growth, poor appetite, increased disease susceptibility, morbidity with clinical symptoms, and pathological abnormalities are some of the symptoms of nutrient deficiency. Now, what are the vitamin deficiency diseases in fish? Vitamin deficiencies fish can lead to various diseases. Some examples are vitamin C or ascorbic acid deficiency leads to broken back disease, where the backbone of the affected fishes get bent. Next, vitamin B complex deficiency, like thiamine, biotin, niacin, and pyridoxine. These deficiencies can cause brain, spinal cord, and nerve disorders in fishes. Unfortunately, vitamin deficiency is diagnosed only after the fish's death. Other nutritional deficiency diseases of fish include amino acid deficiency syndrome, fats and lipid deficiency, vitamin imbalances, and mineral deficiencies. Now, what is mycotoxins? Mycotoxins, these affect the growth, reproduction, and other physiological functions and health status of fish. They have a significant impact on weight gain, body composition, biochemical functions, and the general health condition of fish. Now, what are the toxic effects of mycotoxins on fish? The toxic effects of mycotoxins in animals vary according to the type and the amount of toxin and period that the animal was exposed. Mycotoxins, they have a range of other health effects, including carcinogenic effects, kidney damage, gastrointestinal disturbances, reproductive disorders, or suppression of the immunity system. The toxins as AFB1 can be genotoxic and carcinogenic, and the affected organ is the liver in animals. Now let us see the summary of this chapter. We have learned about the development of artificial feed mainly depends on the studies relating to basic nutrition and physiology. Fish meal and silkworm pupa are good animal protein sources. Leaf proteins, algae proteins, and single cell proteins are plant protein sources. Rice bran and wheat bran, which are the main starch diet, are used for cultivable fishes. They're found to be highly digestible. Fats can be advantageously used in carp feeds for gaining added yields as well as sparing proteins for growth. Growth rate will come down if micronutrients and vitamins are absent in the fish diet. Digested coefficients are generally measured in terms of nitrogen and calories. Fish only gain weight from surplus food after fulfilling the maintenance requirements. The food which is added in the pond for better growth of fish is supplementary feed. This kind of extra food depends on the type of fish. Selection of supplementary feed depends on factors like quality of supplementary feed, stocking density fish, size and age of the fish stock, environmental factors such as temperature, oxygen tension, water, etc., and the method of feeding also. Now, from this chapter, these are the questions frequently asked. Answer the following questions in about 30 lines each. Write about protein feed of fish. Write about the relationship between food and the growth of fish. Detail about supplementary feeding of fish. Detail about formulated fish feed. Write in detail about formulation of fish feed. And then answer the following in about 10 lines each. Write about carbohydrate fish feed. Write about fat fish feed. Write about micronutrients, vitamins, antibiotics of fish feed. Write about protein fish feed of fish. And also write a short note on pellet fish food. So with this, the chapter is concluded, students. Thank you.